my time in the cult. In case those of you who don't know, I spent time in Rajneesh Foundation, Oregon with Rajneesh, so I'm going to talk about that. But also part of my Pathway project, which is mentorship. So I'm going to be speaking to you tonight about a mentor that I had in the calling. No, not a mentor about being a cult member, but a mentor about the publishing business. Let's go back to the fall of 1981. And it was my very first day on the ranch, which is what we call the community of Rajneesh Forum, the community that was led by Sri Rajneesh in the middle of the Oregon desert, just out of nowhere, in that same year. I awoke that morning, my very first morning, in a strange place with a roommate that I had never met. At 6 a.m., I caught a bus to the cafeteria for breakfast, and I looked everywhere, scanned thousands of faces to try and find my boyfriend and partner that I had arrived at the ranch with the night before. He'd been whisked off to where the men slept, and I had been whisked off to where the women slept. And I didn't know where he was. After not finding him at breakfast, it was time to head to the publishing house in my new job. Another bus ride deposited me in front of Zarathustra, which was a massive warehouse. Think of a Costco warehouse, except for twice as high, because it was 2 stories. Inside, I was met by Geeta, an Australian woman who ran the publishing house both in India and in America. And she was trying to explain to me what my new job would be working with the publisher. I could barely hear her or understand what she was saying because I was so overwhelmed by all the newness around me and that I hadn't been able to find my partner that morning. So when she said, "Oh, here's Rama now, let me introduce you." Rama was the head publisher. I was like, oh no. So I was in this big room that was part of the warehouse. It was built inside the warehouse, so we had dozens of tables and desks, and about 30 sannyasins all working and doing their jobs. And across the far end of the room, I saw this huge man come in. He was at least 6'4", and dressed entirely in red, from the top of his head down to his maroon cowboy boots, and his briefcase was also maroon. He had dark curly hair over his ears and a huge bushy beard that covered up his entire face, except for his eyes. And in looking in his eyes, I saw he was probably 40-ish, maybe 20 years older than me at the time. As he walked by, Geeta introduced us, and he said, "Come here." And I looked at Geeta in panic, like, "Oh." And she grabbed my hand and she pulled me over to his desk. And I started crying, bawling my eyes out. I could not stop. All the change, all the stressors, and I just was so embarrassed, mortified that I could not control my emotions. Geeta's voice whispered in my ear, "No worries, we've all been there." Rama took my other hand and pulled me into his lap. Oh no, I really cried then. His arm went around me and my face buried in his shirt, and I sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. And inside myself, I was just thinking, what is happening to me? Who is this person? I don't even know him. And what am I doing here anyways? I don't know how long I cried, but he didn't seem to mind. And his strong embrace gradually calmed me down. "Rough landing?" he asked after a while. He reassured me that I just jumped into a huge new reality and that it would take me quite a while to adjust and get used to it. He said, "I'll start with a simple question. Where are you from?" Still on his knee, I told him. And then I continued to tell him that I had been at the breakfast and I couldn't find my partner, and I was supposed to be working in dentistry with him, and Sheila had said no, and what was I doing here? And I missed my kids, and what's happening to me? Meltdown. It was an unconventional beginning to what became a powerful mentorship that was based on care and compassion for others. My need for human reassurance and feeling cared for had been addressed within 30 seconds of being wrong. Over the next years, we managed huge worldwide sales at each of the international celebrations with the production of hundreds of new titles of books, audio tapes, videotapes. We got contracts with Walden Books and with Barnes & Noble, and had to ship packages and books to every single one of their stores all across America. It was a huge job. And this is before we had the computers that we have today. Through it all was the unconventional daily morning meeting with me sitting on Rama's lap with my steno pad and taking notes. Today, this would be completely unacceptable. In the 40 years since my time in Rajneesh Forum, our world has changed dramatically. And you hearing this may wonder, what else went on with you and Rama? But I have to tell you that it was entirely platonic. He had a girlfriend I never met, and I had a boyfriend he never met. And somehow it worked. Not only that, but it was also exciting, wonderful, and every day to be able to work with the group and the team in Protege. There's something to be said for Maslow's hierarchy of human needs. The psychological, physiological, and safety, and then the love and belonging had all been met within a few hours of arriving. In the years since then, in the dental offices I've managed and worked in, I've aspired to hold the same care for my employees and colleagues. No, they don't sit on my lap, and I don't sit on theirs. However, I've tried to take the time to be available, to talk and be supportive when life's curveballs land hard and rock our road. Thank you.